Don't worry, my friends, we only have about a week and a bit to go before I can stop giving the disclaimer at the beginning of these videos. Because yes, it's true, I am recording this audio on the night of Wednesday, February 25th. By the time the video was public on YouTube on Thursday, maybe the information we're reading is outdated. That certainly wouldn't be ideal, but if there is a trade or if there is a move with one or two of these names, then we'll circle back to it later when I wake up. But today we're talking about Vancouver Canucks forward Jake DeBrusk, and we are also talking about Dallas Stars superstar J-Rob Jason Robertson, and how both of these guys have been linked to the Detroit Red Wings once again. We're going over to a few sources over here. First, we've got thefourthperiod.com, David Pagnotta, writing a piece straight up about Jake DeBrusk. And then we also have some commentary on the Fan Hockey Show from earlier in the week, too, that I also want to dive into. But for now, because I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan first, let's go out there and talk about Jake DeBrusk, currently of the Vancouver Canucks, and how they are open to calls on him. This article written by Pagnotta will be linked in the description, but if you go out there and take a look at the scoop, the Canucks have a number of irons in the fire, with several players available leading up to the March 6th trade deadline in 11 days. As Canucks management make and take calls on players such as Evander Kane, Garland, Blueger, and Pettersson, they also appear to be open to moving power forward Jake DeBrusk. During last week's DFO Rundown Insider Edition episode, Irfan Ghaffar first reported that DeBrusk was available and is open to a change of scenery. Now, that's not new information. We had already heard that Jake DeBrusk would have been okay with the idea of getting traded, not because he doesn't like Vancouver, but because he could probably stand to play for a more competitive team. I mean, the guy is 29 years old. He had some playoff runs in Boston, but really, if he wants to go out there and compete for a Stanley Cup, he is not going to do that in Vancouver. This is what the article continues up with. The Boston Bruins, the Seattle Kraken, and Detroit Red Wings are among the teams believed to have some interest in DeBrusk, who has jumped onto the fourth period's latest trade watch list. It is unclear as to the type of deal the Canucks are looking for in order to move DeBrusk, but GM Patrick Allvin and team president Jim Rutherford are willing to entertain calls. DeBrusk has registered 13 goals and 15 assists for 28 points in 56 games with the Canucks so far this season, and he picked up 48 points with Vancouver last season. Yeah, I guess it goes without saying that Jake DeBrusk was a more productive player last year compared to this year, but a lot of folks on the Vancouver Canucks have slowed down production-wise. It's only really like Teddy Blueger that's actually found a way to be better point production-wise compared to last year. But Jake DeBrusk, for all he is a versatile enough winger who does provide some streaky goal-scoring ability. I'm not saying he would be an amazing fit with Detroit, but I can understand why Stevie Y would be interested in this kind of a guy. A player who just kind of does it all. You don't really expect anything too extraordinary out of him, but once in a while he will click for maybe a 3 or 4 game goal streak. It happens for Jake DeBrusk once in a while, especially when he's feeling it. But with the Vancouver Canucks and how bad they are this season, it's kind of hard for anybody, really, to consistently get points and goals to go up on the board. Heck, we saw even Quinn Hughes had a difficult time consistently producing for the Vancouver Canucks in 2025-2026. So, Detroit being mentioned alongside of Boston and Seattle as potential DeBrusk destinations, that is super interesting to me. Also, the idea of him going over back to Boston. We're shipping back to Boston, I guess. That would be quite the turnaround for Vancouver as well. Essentially signing a guy for free and then trading him back to the team that he came from for assets. That would be the ultimate 5D chess sort of move. Somebody open up the Tesseract and go back in time to talk to Murph. But with all that said, we have ourselves another conversation to have when it comes to the Detroit Red Wings in the form of Jason Robertson of the Dallas Stars. Take a look at this comment made by Mike Fuda on the Fan Hockey Show 2 days ago. The only thing I did hear about the Detroit Red Wings, and I don't think Dallas can do anything because they definitely need him for a run, but I think Jason Robertson has massive heat going to the Detroit Red Wings if he goes to UFA status. And that is kind of interesting, because Wild Watcher goes out there and says, hey, this is embarrassing. Robertson is an RFA after this season, not a UFA. Dallas has no risk in keeping Robertson past the trade deadline. They either re-sign him after the season or trade him for full value as an RFA. And yeah, that's a very interesting way to respond to it. It is true, though, if you go over to Robertson and his deal, you take a look at the contract expiration status over here. Oh, it actually doesn't show on Elite Prospects. Okay, we have to go to puckpedia.com in full. Valid security performance. Okay, there you go. So if you take a look at the Robertson contract, it is an RFA deal. He will be a restricted free agent at the end of the year. No contract, obviously, is not ideal, but there will still be some level of control that the Dallas Stars have over this asset, which is why another reply goes out there and says, not really, the player still has leverage. Decline a long-term extension, sign your qualifying offer in the offseason, and walk as a UFA wherever you want in a year. Matthew Tkachuk did the same thing, but at least let the Flames know that he'd be leaving. Yes, he just switched agents to the one that 1/3 of the team has to force his way out. Idiot. So, whether or not you subscribe to that idea or not, that's besides the point. Jason Robertson's being linked over to the Detroit Red Wings, whether it is a trade or whether it is some sort of a UFA pitch next year. The idea of J-Rob heading over to Motown obviously tickles my fancy quite a lot. Much more so than the idea of Jake DeBrusk going over to Motown. Make no mistake, Jason Robertson is just a superior player. This season he's got 66 points in 58 games played, on pace for 93 points, which admittedly is not that great compared to his 109-point season he had a few years ago. Now, I kid. He only got outscored by, 16 more points in that season compared to what he's on pace for nowadays. But Jason Robertson, even in a non-career high-setting season, he is still very productive, and he still would be one of the most effective and highest-scoring players on Detroit if he were to go over there. Not to mention the fact that the Wings could use a bona fide top left wing. Sorry, Marco Kasper, you're fine in the first-line position, but Jason Robertson would be a total package fit with Raymond and Larkin. Or if you wanted to just load up on All-Americans, you could do that. Robertson, Larkin, Kane, DeBrincat, these guys are all American dudes. They could potentially all do some damage at the World Championships or whatever, let alone the Olympics. Okay, wait a minute, never mind. We don't gotta talk about Team USA players making or not making the Olympic team, because Alex DeBrincat still stings the fact that he was excluded. And Jason Robertson, I guess, too. Anyways, the idea of Robertson heading over to the Detroit Red Wings, combined with Jake DeBrusk heading over there as well, this boils down to our Red Wings desirability conversation, and it opens the door as to whether or not Steve Yzerman actually will take the necessary steps to buy, to improve the forward core, to get guys onto the team to help him out, and actually say to the rest of the roster that's on the team right now, you guys are good enough to buy for. We are a good enough team to make the playoffs and thus actually make a move to try to support that cause. No sitting around at the trade deadline just not doing anything, saying, oh yeah, we still gotta rebuild, we gotta wait a little longer. None of that. Try to go for it. Whether it's this year in a trade for Jake DeBrusk, or next year in the offseason for Jason Robertson, or maybe even in a trade for Robertson this year, who knows? There are options for Stevie Y, and I'm interested in seeing where things go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Jake DeBrusk and Jason Robertson both being linked over to the Detroit Red Wings? I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.